Hey Cactus friends, it's Jenny from Cacti. You're going to notice that something has changed in the Cacti garden. For those of you who have seen my previous videos where I'm out here at the shade house or under the pergola, do you see the difference? That's right. Cacti got a makeover. Now we still have the signature chaos and disarray, as I am still working on moving things back and figuring how to arrange everything. There's been a lot of trial and error as I put something there and then I don't like the way it looks or it doesn't make sense. Then I take it apart and put it back again. So that's why everything is still somewhat chaotic. But I don't know if any of you remember or have seen this, but for those of you who have, if you remember in the past, the side of my house was absolute chaos. It was just a rock or gravel ground cover, and all it did was grow weeds. So I had it completely redone with artificial turf, and it makes the side of my house actually usable. It's a lot larger of a space than I ever thought it would be. You can see I put some lawn furniture, so it's actually turned into like a little patio for me, and I've been using it. It's so nice. The other major change you can see is I have this area completely paved with pavers. All of this work was done by a local company here called Lewis & Sons Landscaping and Hardscaping. Oh, they did a really, really great job with the project. I was actually very, very anxious for this because it was such a large project. In the beginning, I had only hoped to trim an overgrown mesquite tree in the front yard and then to do something with the side of the house here and the other side of the house here, because all it did was grow weeds and I wasn't able to keep it under control, and I didn't do a good job of managing the condition of this space. So I had them completely pave or put artificial turf up. But then we were looking at the rest of the landscape, and if we had only taken care of the two sides of the house, it would have mixed like old with new, and we ended up just redoing all of the turf back here. And then we were brainstorming what to do over here, and we decided to just completely pave it. And by doing this, it means that my grow space has expanded. Oh, and it was absolute chaos with the plants. I had to figure out where to move these plants and all these structures while they were working on all the hardscaping. And I'm going to put up a picture of where I put the plants, which was on the patio. So they were here for like 2 weeks. And this area, you can see it's still morning right now, so it's in full shade. And then once the afternoon comes by in the evening, it's like in full sun. It was absolutely terrible. I just used shade cloth and whatever I could to protect the plants and just hoped and prayed that they would stay alive and survive this whole ordeal. They did to a degree. I would say all my adult plants did fine, but my Copiapoa seedlings, something happened again and a whole bunch of them are dying again. But my plan now, as you can see, that little shade house is gone, and you can see the frame of it over there. So this is my original pergola. I've just turned it and then moved it towards more to the center of the yard. And I'm planning that anything that needs protection from those darn thrashers will go in here. And I'm not allowed to expand beyond this, which I have make that declaration now, and who knows if I will actually follow it or not. And then one of my shade structures I put over here. It's one of the smaller ones, and I'm allowing myself to put some of the plants that don't really need protection from the birds out here. It's quite a mess here. I'm actually going through the plants. I'm picking stuff that I really shouldn't keep, and I'll probably most likely donate it to the Cactus Society in those auctions. Then on the other side, I have my other shade structure, which this used to house plants underneath it, but I'm planning to use this as like my potting area. Excuse the mess. For those of you who don't like clutter, turn away. But like I can store all my pottery out here, and then a lot of the nursery pots are still in my garage, so I need to move them out here. And I'm planning to not keep plants out here. Maybe some elephant food, and who knows, maybe I'll put some plants that are, first thrasher proof, and we'll just have to figure that out. But Oh, that's so much better. So the huge challenge of the pergola as I was setting it up from scratch again was bird proofing it. So at least as of now, it seems to be mostly bird proof. So those darn thrashers cannot get in. But we're gonna have to see over time because those guys are darn smart. Let me take you inside the new pergola space. We are now inside the pergola. I'm gonna go to the back and turn the camera around. Okay, I don't know if this is any better. These are the same setups that I had previously, but now the entire space is devoted to plants. So I've got this really long table and then a second really long table. And then I fit 3 wire racks in the back. And I'm telling myself that I'm not allowed to have any more plants than what can fit inside here. And it has been a challenge, but I also have seedlings dying off, so some space is naturally opening up. What I tried to do was kind of arrange my plants together in some sense, although you'll see there's a straggling aerocarpus amongst the astrophytum. So all the astrophytum are placed together so that when they bloom, like some of these are doing, I can easily just pollinate them because they're so close together. And on the other side, I have all my aerocarpus. And when I was putting these plants back into this space, I was a little bit horrified by the number of plants that I have. I mean, it is amazing, but I think I have a problem, which you all already know that. But same thing, you know, all the aerocarpus are put together so that when they flower in October, November, it will be really easy to pollinate them. Over here I kind of have a mix of mammillaria, Cactus, and you can see the Cactus, is it heterochromis or something like that? It's in bloom. So beautiful. Here's a Hexadrophoris. Forest in bloom. All of these mature plants did very well with the move. So far I haven't had any problems. They did fine on the patio, and then after putting them back, I gave them I think I waited a few days, gave them a good water because they hadn't been watered for 3 weeks. And they seem to have done fine. Let me turn to the other table. I've got a little pile with that shade cloth on top that I'm thinking maybe to do some donations. These are Julius babies, my astrophytum babies. See, one of them's in flower, and other bunch of plants that many of you have seen before. And once again, I think I have a problem. Okay, let me tell you about the problem that I did have in the move, and I have more Copiapoa seedlings that died. So the majority of my seedlings are on the wire shelves. Some of them are here on the table, but some of them are, or most of them are on the wire shelves. So what I did was, I put them into the wire shelf, and it had been 3 weeks since anybody had been watered. So I gave them a nice water along with everybody else. But then I came out a few days later and noticed that a bunch of Copiapoa seedlings were dying again. So this time, most likely either stress from the move combined with being watered or something. So I thought about removing these, for the sake of this video, but you know what? Why don't I just show it? And not everything is sunshine and roses, I'm still making a lot of mistakes with these Copiapoa seedlings, and I don't know, maybe that's just part of the game. And over time, I'll figure out how to better care for them and prevent the seedlings from dying. But I'm definitely, these are all dead, dying. I'm definitely struggling with these seedlings that are a couple years old. And definitely with certain species that seem to be more rot prone than others. And the only way that I'm learning is by making the mistake. And when I see them dying, it really hurts. But at the same time, there's just no other way around it, These are all the mammillaria and the North American cacti seedlings, and they did fine with being watered and being moved around. They're not so sensitive to changes and watering, and it just makes me love them even more. Yeah, I can still see there's more this humilis is dying. Darn it. So by the time that, yeah, you see something's dead there. By the time that fall comes around, there's really only going to be so many Copiapoa seedlings left. What can you do? I have more that are growing indoors, so I guess I'll have another chance to try again. But a lot of these are not looking so good. My shade situation under the pergola is also a little bit non-ideal. If you see that silver shade cloth, that's 50%. But the sun and UV strength is still so intense right now that 50%, you can see over there how bright it is by the aerial carpus. 50% is still a lot of sun or, UV intensity. So I have this other shade sail that I put up, and this is probably a little bit too much shade. So it's not ideal, and you can see that at the edges, that shade sail doesn't quite make it. So some parts of the pergola are underneath a lot of sunlight, and then some of it's in a lot of shade. It's kind of messed up. But at this point, this is all I can do. So I've been out here like for at least a few hours almost every single night, trying to arrange that space outside, my patio area. I think I'm going to end up removing, like you see that shelf standing there. I'll probably end up taking that apart, maybe saving it for another purpose or just putting it away in the meantime. But this is the Cookies Cacti update. You can see the pavers here. I love them. This is a color called slate, which is just different shades of gray, maybe not 50. I really, really love it, especially with the gray contrasted with the turf. I think it looks really nice. Those guys work so darn hard. They were here for like 12 to 13 hours a day in this heat, working on, basically kind of putting art together. So that is the update for Cookies Cacti. Let's see what happens. I thought about maybe I could wait longer before doing an update, but I'm like, why not just show it now? I think they finished this last weekend. Oh, by the way, another thing that I learned, how I have these grafted Copiapoa? I was wondering if they would show, or if any of these plants would show etiolation from being on my dark patio for 2 weeks. And for the most part, they didn't. Like most of these plants, I couldn't tell any difference. But the grafted cactus, I could tell a difference because the graft stock is pushing up such fast growth that without light, you can actually see the etiolation on the scion. So these were affected by being in a dark area for all that time. But hopefully they'll recover and maybe it won't be so obvious in the future, but we'll see what happens. So that was something learned. What I should have done was put them inside under grow lights to prevent this from happening. So some of the seedlings I did put indoors under grow lights. It's the ones that were in the shade house originally. A lot of them are from the Lazy Way to Grow Cactus from Seed series. Well, now we'll have to see how much more die-off there's going to be. It looks like every day I come out here and there's a whole group of Copiapoa again that have died. It seems they're very sensitive to stress and then to water. So here's the thing. I was like, was it the watering that killed them? I think that's part of the equation. But before we did the move, what happened was after the last die-off, I was extremely conservative on watering the Copiapoa seedlings. And yeah, it kept them on the dry side, but a lot of them were like desiccating and not looking happy. So I was like kind of slowly trying, if I water a little bit, how would they do? I was misting at one point, but that made no difference for me. And I finally just broke down and gave them a good water, and they started to bounce back. So I was like, okay, then they should be fine with being watered. But then after this move, they're not fine with being watered. So perhaps it's like some combination between stress and then watering, and then that causing their die off like this. Perhaps even combined with our climate here, which is extremely hot in the summer. So it's still a bit of a mystery, but for sure these are quite challenging for me to keep alive. I find that the younger seedlings, like these smaller ones, are a little bit more forgiving on the watering, but the big ones, they don't like this. So I don't know how many plants I'm going to have left by the end of the season. We will see. Now let's go inside and do the drawing for the Cookies Cacti Midsummer Seed Giveaway and go cool off indoors as well. I come out here every single day and admire this work. Oh, the pavers are so beautiful. Look at that contrast of the gray against the green. I love it. All right, this lighting is terrible. All right, we are back inside the house and cooling off, and we are going to do the Cookies Cacti Midsummer Cactus Seed Giveaway right now. So I have a spreadsheet here with all the folks who entered the giveaway. Thank you all very much. There were 29 total entries, and as I mentioned in the previous video, I was going to do this the old-fashioned way. So there are 29 pieces of paper inside this cactus or plant pot. This pot, which is so cool and so fun, is by an artist called Dysfunctional Wear on Etsy. Sadly, this artist passed away, I think at least 2 or 3 years ago at the age of 51. I think he had heart failure. So, obviously these are not being produced anymore, but I have 2 of his pots, and they are very precious to me. So I have 29 numbers inside this Dysfunctional Wear pot. They're all cut on the same size piece of paper, folded exactly the same way. I never knew how much, I see why people use random number generators, because this is a little bit of work, but still manageable with tens of entries. So, by the way, I've also listed like the histogram for the entries that came from which state. You can see the most entries came from California, and then Illinois, and then the tie between several states, and then you can see the tie for 1 entry per state at the end. But it's very interesting to see where the entries were coming from, and I thank you, all of these folks who entered. Many of you have been longtime supporters of this channel, and I really, really appreciate it. I have the prize right here. Seeds. Some goodies in here. So let's see who's going to take this home. One hand is holding a camera, so let's try. All right. Oh, here we go. Who's the lucky winner? Number 19. Let's see who this is. Tenucon 19 from Illinois. Well, Tenucon, I will reach out to you on Instagram, and I will also leave a comment on your comment on the video for the giveaway on YouTube. Congratulations. I hope you have a lot of fun growing these. And that concludes our very first giveaway on Cookies Cacti. I'm planning to do another one at the end of the Cactus Seed Soil Battle series with a very special prize. So thank you all for tuning in. Take care, y'all. Bye-bye.